On the lot of Golden Harvest Studios in Hong Kong, in the third week of September 1979, the air carried the particular weight of celluloid ambition and subtropical heat. Stage 4 was lit for a fight sequence. 41 crew members moved equipment across concrete floors. The director had called for a 15-minute break, and in that window, something happened that none of the 41 people present would describe the same way twice. The man who started it was 25 years old. He stood 5 feet 9 and weighed 168 pounds of compressed functional muscle. He had trained since the age of 6 at the China Drama Academy, enduring a curriculum that broke children before it shaped them. By 1979, he had appeared in 31 films, choreographed his own stunt sequences, and absorbed impacts that had sent 3 separate stunt coordinators to the hospital in his place. His name was Jackie Chan, and he was, by any measurable standard, among the most physically capable human beings working in the martial arts film industry at that moment in history. His kung fu was not decorative. It was the product of 12,000 hours of conditioning, of falls taken on stone floors at the age of 9, of bones that had been broken and reset, and broken again until the body learned to treat pain as information rather than instruction. In the next 11 seconds, with 4 movements, everything he believed about himself would be tested against a standard he had not anticipated. Nobody in that studio knew they were about to witness something that 40 years later, 3 of the men present would still refuse to describe in full. Chuck Norris had arrived on the lot 2 days earlier. He was not there to film. He had been brought in as a technical consultant on a single sequence, his name attached to the production as a credential. The way a university might attach a scholar's name to a paper it wanted people to read. He was 39 years old. He wore a plain gray shirt and dark trousers and boots that had not been selected for the occasion. He carried no bag. He did not ask where the food was. He found a folding chair in the corner of stage 4, set it against the wall, and sat down with the particular stillness of a man who has learned that silence in a room costs nothing and reveals everything. 6 years earlier, he had held the professional middleweight karate championship of the world. He had held it for 6 consecutive years before that. He had trained under Bruce Lee. He had fought in full contact competition at a time when the sport had no medical staff at ringside and no standardized rules. And he had won in conditions that would today be classified as unsafe for amateur bouts. The men who had stood across from him in competition numbered over 200. The men who had beaten him numbered fewer than 10. And in 4 of those losses, the margin had been a single point decided by a judge who later publicly revised his opinion. He was sitting in the corner of stage 4 with his arms resting on his knees when Jackie Chan walked over. What followed was not planned. 3 witnesses confirmed this independently, across 3 separate decades without coordinating their accounts. Jackie Chan had been moving through the space between setups, burning the energy that professional stunt performers carry in their bodies during downtime, the coiled readiness that has no outlet when cameras are not rolling. He stopped in front of the folding chair. He looked at the man sitting in it. He was 25 and had never lost a physical confrontation on screen or off it. And there was in him, as there is in every young man of genuine ability who has not yet met his ceiling, a need to know exactly where that ceiling was. He said something. The exact words differ across accounts. The version that Raymond Chow, the Golden Harvest executive, recorded in his private journal reads, "I want to try something with you. I think I am fast enough." The version that stunt coordinator Sammo Hung repeated in an interview 20 years later was shorter. The version that the gaffer, a man named Lau Keen Fong who had worked 36 film sets and would work 40 more, told his son was this. He told Chuck Norris that his karate was built for competition and that real speed was different. He said he wanted to test that. If you want to know what happened in the seconds that followed, make sure you are subscribed and drop a comment below telling us where in the world you are watching from. Chuck Norris looked at Jackie Chan for a moment. He did not stand, he did not smile, he did not explain himself. He reached to the side of the folding chair, picked up the gray jacket he had placed there when he sat down, folded it once along the seam, and set it on the seat of the chair. Then he stood. He was not taller than Jackie Chan by much. He was not heavier by much. He looked to the crew members watching from across the stage, like a man who had agreed to help move a piece of furniture. The crew had stopped moving. Raymond Chow had set his clipboard down on the edge of a lighting cart. Sammo Hung had taken 2 steps backward and crossed his arms, not in resistance but in the particular posture of a man who wants to see clearly. The gaffer Lau Keen Fong had placed his coffee on the concrete floor and had not picked it up again. He has already lost. He just does not know it yet. 11 feet separated them. This is the thing about 11 feet that most people do not understand. 11 feet is not a safe distance from a trained striker. 11 feet is the distance at which the geometry of engagement begins. A man moving from 11 feet with proper weight transfer and hip rotation arrives at contact range in approximately 0.8 of a second. The human nervous system, under the specific pressure of a live confrontation, requires between 1.2 and 1.5 seconds to identify a threat, process it, and initiate a counter-response. The gap between those two numbers is not luck, it is the entire discipline. A fight is not 2 men striking each other. A fight is a conversation about distance, and the man who controls the first sentence controls the entire exchange. Jackie Chan moved. He was fast. Every witness confirmed this without qualification. He threw a lead hand jab that had been thrown in various forms approximately 40,000 times in his training life. The mechanics were correct. The commitment was genuine. The angle was sound. Second 1. The jab traveled. It did not arrive. Chuck Norris had shifted his weight to the rear foot and moved his head 3 inches off the center line. The punch passed through the space where his face had been. He did not block it. He did not parry it. He had simply ceased to occupy the position the punch was aimed at. Raymond Chow's hands came together on the edge of the lighting cart. He did not speak. Second 2. Jackie Chan followed with a right cross. The natural continuation of the combination, the sequence that had ended every sparring session he had ever lost control of. It was fast. It was technically correct. It found nothing. Chuck Norris had moved laterally, 2 steps to the left, unhurried, the way a man steps around a puddle on a pavement he has walked 1,000 times. Sammo Hung uncrossed his arms. He recrossed them higher on his chest. Second 3. Jackie Chan adjusted. He was not a man who repeated failure. He changed the angle, drove forward with a side kick to the midsection, the technique that in 31 films had read as definitive on camera, and in sparring had twice fractured ribs. He extended from the hip with full commitment. Chuck Norris caught the kick, not blocked. Caught. He turned his lead hand 90 degrees and the leg arrived in his grip, and for a moment of approximately 1 second, Jackie Chan was standing on 1 foot in the grip of a man who had not yet raised his heart rate above resting. The gaffer Lau Keen Fong would tell his son, many years later, that what he remembered most was the sound, or the absence of it. The stage had 41 people in it, and for 3 seconds none of them breathed loud enough to hear. Chuck Norris held the kick. He looked at Jackie Chan. He did not apply pressure downward, which would have taken the younger man's balance. He did not step in, which would have created a different kind of problem. He held the leg with the neutral grip of a man examining a tool, deciding whether it is the right tool for the job. Then he set the foot down. He took 1 step backward, returning to precisely the distance at which they had begun. He put his hands down. He waited. He did not throw a single strike. He did not demonstrate. He simply stopped, and in that stopping was a statement that required no translation and no volume. Jackie Chan stood on 2 feet. He was breathing. His eyes moved across the space between them with the particular quality of attention that belongs only to men who have been genuinely surprised by another man's capability and are revising, in real time, the architecture of what they believed possible. There was a long moment. Chuck Norris extended his right hand, not in the way that men shake hands after a business agreement, in the way that a teacher extends a hand to a student who has just understood something difficult. Open palm level, the fingers slightly relaxed. Jackie Chan looked at the hand. He looked at the man. He reached out and gripped it, and they held that grip for 3 seconds, which is a long time for 2 men standing in a silent room to hold each other's hand. What Chuck Norris said next was heard by 1 person. Sammo Hung was standing 12 feet away and claimed in the 2003 interview to have caught 3 words of it. He declined to repeat them. He said only that what he heard was not an instruction and not a compliment. He said it sounded like a question. Jackie Chan did not answer it aloud. He stood at the fork in the road that every man reaches who has publicly misjudged a situation, and he made the choice that defines the trajectory of what comes after. He did not find an explanation. He did not reference the context, the heat, the shooting schedule, the fatigue of a 12-hour day. He nodded once, slowly, with his chin dipping toward his chest and rising again. The specific nod of a man who has accepted information about himself that he did not previously possess. The crew resumed moving. Raymond Chow picked up his clipboard. The gaffer retrieved his coffee from the concrete floor and found it had gone cold. The story left stage 4 the same day it happened. Stories like this one do not stay contained. They travel through the specific network of people who witness something they cannot entirely describe, who carry it home and set it down at dinner tables, and repeat it in abbreviated form, because the full version resists compression. Sammo Hung told a stunt coordinator he trusted. That man told a director he trusted. The version that circulated through the Hong Kong film industry across the following years shed details and accumulated others, the way stories do when they move through decades without a document to anchor them. Some versions gave the encounter a larger audience. Some versions gave it an audience that was not there. One version, circulating in a training gym in Kowloon in the mid-1980s, included a remark that nobody present had recorded, and that bears the specific fingerprint of invention, too clean, too philosophical, too aware of its own significance. The version that has remained closest to the accounts of the 3 primary witnesses is the version that ends with 2 men standing in a studio in the September heat, one of whom learned something he had not known before, and the other of whom asked a question that the first man carried with him for a long time afterward. Jackie Chan's career after 1979 did not contract. It expanded enormously in ways that transformed the martial arts film industry and eventually bridged 2 continents. He made films in which he fell from buildings and drove vehicles into walls and absorbed impacts that no stunt insurance policy would cover today. And he did all of it with a fluency and self-possession that improved, year over year, in ways that his earliest collaborators found difficult to account for fully. Sammo Hung, in the 2003 interview, when asked whether the encounter on stage 4 had any connection to the discipline Jackie Chan displayed in the decades that followed, paused for longer than the interview format required. He said, "A man who knows where his ceiling is works differently than a man who does not." He did not elaborate. Chuck Norris was 43 when he spoke about the Hong Kong period in a single published interview. He described the technical differences between competitive karate and stunt choreography. He said the film industry attracted men of genuine ability. He did not name anyone specifically. He was asked directly whether he had met Jackie Chan. He said yes, briefly on a set. He was asked whether anything notable had occurred. He said he had enjoyed the work. The light continued to fall on the concrete floor of stage 4, indifferent to what had happened there. The camera equipment was rolled to the next position. The director called the crew back. The afternoon continued in the ordinary way that afternoons continue after extraordinary things have occurred inside them, unremarked upon by the world at large, carried only in the specific silence of the men who were present. The lesson in that silence is not complicated, though it takes most men a long time to receive it. Capability and certainty are not the same thing. A man who knows what he can do is useful. A man who knows what he cannot do is dangerous in a different way entirely, and dangerous in the way that matters more. Next time, we will look at the afternoon in 1983 when Arnold Schwarzenegger walked onto a training floor in Woodland Hills and made a statement to a room of competitive fighters that nobody present was prepared for. And what Chuck Norris said to him, quietly from across the room, that ended the conversation before it began.